Welcome to the Heart-Centered Sales Leader podcast on webtalkradio.net. Of course, I am your heart-centered sales leader and host, Connie Whitman. So thank you for joining us today. Now, to help you on your journey of business growth, client growth, again, the whole sales leadership component of business, I have for you a gift. Go to my website, which is whitmanassociates.com, and I have a free communication style assessment that will help you identify your communication superpowers, but it will also share a report with you of your lowest score, which is your communication blind spots. Blind spots probably a little bit more important even than our superpowers because we're shooting ourselves in the foot and we don't know why. So that little bit of information could be truly enlightening for you. So again, it's whitmanassociates.com/CSA for the communication style assessment. If you are loving the show, please subscribe so you don't miss an episode. And if you rate and review, I love reading and you guys sharing your love with me. I feel it, and I hope that you feel it coming back at you through the different shows. And of course, if you could share it with your peeps, that would even be better. Let's share the love on a global scale. Now, my motivational quote today is by Rohn, and Jim says, "Take care of your body. It's the only place you have to live." Just love that quote. So how frequently do you hear this topic about health and wellness, life balance, self-care, and, the list goes on and on, right? We've all heard it numerous times. Well, I don't know about you, but I feel like most of the time, it's almost too overwhelming to be able to piece together how we should move forward and what is the right resource, tool, or process for me. So, of course, I have an amazing guest today. My good friend and amazing expert is Julie Mann. Now, Julie has been an actor for over 40 years. She's got an amazing personality, and she's a life coach and EFT practitioner for more than 20 of those years. Now, she uses her skills to help boost her clients' confidence so that they can feel good about themselves. Now, 10 years ago, Julie started a health and wellness business and love helping men and women live happy, sustainable lives. And I think that's a really important component. So please help me welcome Julie to the show. Julie, thank you for being on. Yay!
Thank you, Connie. It's great to see you. And I love that quote by Rohn. I love him.
Isn't that amazing? And really, we, Julie and I laugh because we're seasoned, which to me means we're hot and spicy people, but we're seasoned, right? We're not, 30 or 40 anymore, yet we look darn good, girlfriend. Oh. And I was teasing Julie before we started the recording, and I said, I think because we both live joyous and happy lives, that translates into how you look, really, because it's that vibration, that energy that we send out. So I think we have that youthful disposition. So, of course, we look youthful. If you don't think I look youthful, just stop listening to the show then. So let's start, Jules, by talking about what is your definition of health and well-being?
So I think good health and well-being is looking at the whole person. So it's about mindset, it's about the body, but it's not just inside the body, it's actually outside the body. So it's the skin as well. So it's mind, body, and skin. It's looking at the whole. And I think most people know the basics of good health, but actually there are so many people that say that they wish they felt better or they wish they looked better. And maybe they try a short-term fix, they change their habits for a little bit, but because they're not committed to, they're not actually invested in their health and well-being, it doesn't take long before those habits stop and they go back to old patterns. So it's really about having your mindset aligned to, the goals that you say that you want physically, and then it all works together. But it is about looking at the long term and investing in your health every single day. And I'm not talking about being obsessive, but I'm talking about being mindful.
Yeah, of everything we do. It's funny when you said the word commit. When I coach, but I also teach the management teams to coach their teams after they come through training, because somebody has to sustain it after I do the training, right? I'm gone. Well, who's teaching them? Who's reinforcing? And whenever the employee, and I do this, I say this in training, if your employee says at the end, you guys agree to some objective action steps, skills, goals, whatever it is, and the employee turns around and says, I'll try that, your response as a coach is say, that's great. I'm so excited that you're on board. How about what will you commit to? And I said, change that paradigm of thinking, because I'm trying to lose weight as I shove the potato chip in my mouth, right? Versus I'm committed to losing weight, so I'm drinking, my gallon of water a day. There's a big difference between trying and committing. So I love that you said that. And the other thing you said, Julie, that I think is important, I think we have to be obsessed with things, which isn't the case at all, because now when you start to get obsessed, what do? You bring the overwhelm into the life. You bring that feeling of, I can never do this. So it's counterintuitive. By being obsessed, you're putting so much pressure on yourselves that's when we backslide and we go back. It's too much. I just can't do it. I'm going to go back to the way I was. It was just easier. So I think committing, but not obsessing, but committing to whatever those steps are, that's the magic, right? Because there is no magic pill, but that's that magic of the commitment versus obsessing. So I love that you kind of defined that separately, which is really good.
And I think as well, we need accountability. We need accountability for everything that we do. And whether or not that's setting a timer on your phone so that you don't overwork, or, whether that's about having a buddy that you exercise with, if we don't have some sort of structure, then we're not going to make it work. So that's why it's really powerful to surround yourself with people who are like-minded, people who are heading in the same direction, or people who are not necessarily going to say, oh, shame you fell off the wagon. It doesn't matter, there's always tomorrow, rather than saying, what are you committed to?
Absolutely. It's funny when you just said, not overworking. So I have a problem with that. So my husband is my timer. He'll come down. Do you know what time it is? Now I'm on the computer. I could easily see it. I don't ever look at the time because I'm working, I'm in flow, whatever. And he says, yeah, it's time for you to shut down. I'm like, oh crap. I didn't even realize it, because we're hungry. We want to have dinner. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm shutting down. Give me 5 more minutes. But then I know he's calling down. 5 minutes is up. So I'm just giggling because he is my timer, because I really go down the rabbit hole of work. And then, one more thing. It's a problem, right? It's a disease I have. I have another question, Julie. Go ahead.
You absolutely love what you do.
I do.
People are on that hamster wheel, but they don't love what they do. So actually, it's good and it's not so good, because obviously it means that your family don't see you so much unless he comes in and says, now, stop.
Exactly. Yeah, but I do. I love what I do. So yeah, that's part of the joy in my day as well, right? So that I do look youthful. See, I'm pushing that, guys. I'm pushing the youthful. You're going to believe me by the end of the show. Anyway, I'm just being a goofball. Now, Julie, did your family, is this something that you were taught from when you were a little girl about good health and good habits and stuff?
No, absolutely not. I didn't know that drinking water was so beneficial. I think that there was a stage in my life where my parents had some money and they bought a property that had some land, and they did start growing vegetables and they did grow some fruits. And I remember my mum was constantly harvesting and then putting it in the freezer and getting quite annoyed, actually, because there was so much of it. So I do remember that. But I also remember when they didn't have money, on a Saturday tea time, we'd call it, we used to have me, my twin brother, my younger brother, we used to have 3 slices of white bread before we could have anything, and that was simply to fill us up. And after that, we were allowed some crisps, and then we were allowed an Arctic roll, which is sort of a sponge roll with ice cream in it, with jam in it.
Yum.
And also these little ice gems, which were circular biscuits with a little dollop of icing on them. I absolutely hate them now, but they were bright colours, almost luminous colours, and that was the treat. But my mother didn't even teach me how to cook. And when I went to drama college when I was 21, first time I'd ever been away from home, I remember really most of the time I lived on peanut butter and banana toasties and chips and alcohol. That was about it.
Did you gain weight, or do you have a really good metabolism that even though you weren't eating the best, that you still were able to, because that's what I find too. People who are thin and they eat absolute crap, they're like, yeah, but I don't gain weight. Okay, but what is it doing to your insides, right? Your liver or your kidneys working overtime to process all the crap. So did you gain weight, or were you one of those lean, mean machines?
I think there has been periods in my life where I did gain weight. I was probably about 11 stone. I'm now about 9.5 stone.
A what?
But
A what?
9.5 stone. Yeah, no, you call it stone. I'm still working in stones, actually. So
I,
no idea how much that is in metric. But anyway, kilos. How many? Don't know. Probably
okay.
60 kilos, something like that.
Okay.
Okay.
We're pounds in the United States. Remember, we're not metric here in the U.S. So like we're like I'm going to say I'm 120 pounds. Everybody listening is like, yeah, right. Like a kid is 120 pounds, right? So just so funny. So yeah, so you have had. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. So yeah, so you've had where you've had weight, and then taking control to lose the weight. Because I think that's the other thing too, Julie. People take action when externally they don't look as good, or internally they feel kind of crappy. But even internally, if they're feeling crappy but they look good on the outside, I almost feel like sometimes they're like, it's not that bad. Once the outside starts to visually become distorted, gaining weight or what have you, unable to walk because you're carrying too much weight, that kind of thing, I think that's when people maybe react and act more, commit on a deeper level. I mean, I could be way off with that. So
when I was a teenager, I do remember going on lots of fad diets. So I remember, and actually my body was fine. I was so unhappy with who I was. I just thought I should be someone else, that I wasn't good enough, ultimately. Yeah.
Sad.
And I remember doing the bacon and egg diet, the cheese and raisin diet, cubes of cheddar cheese and a handful of raisins 3 times a day. Madness. And of course, I'd feel great because I'd be in control. And I feel very pleased with myself that I would do that. And then, of course, the diet would end. And then I feel terrible. I wasn't looking at the long term. I didn't know how to really address the way I was feeling, because no one taught me how at that point.
It's sad. Yeah, it's sad, but I think a lot of people go through that we feed, right? The eating disorder is you're trying to feed a void within yourself. And the reality is you have to address whatever that void is, that the food will never fill it, right? Or the alcohol or the pills or whatever it is that we use as our filler, so to speak. Have you had periods in your life where you just, like when you look back, where you thought, wow, I can't believe that I was in that dis-ease, right? Where I was not healthy at all, or kind of overall a pretty healthy life?
So when I went to drama college, as I said, when I was 21, I became bulimic, very mildly bulimic. So I would binge. But I looked kind of normal, whatever normal is. I'm doing air quotes now.
Yes.
But I just felt so unhappy inside, and you're right about that emptiness. And then, of course, I'd binge. I wouldn't taste the food. It would be like a quick anesthetic, and I'd feel better sort of while it was happening. Sure. And then I'd feel all that shame that goes with it. So if anyone listening can relate to that, it's an awful, awful time I was going through. And I rebelled really very late in life. It's when I was in my 30s, and I went around the world with a friend of mine. And I just partied really hard. So I was in my 30s. My daughter now says, oh, my goodness, Mum, you should have known better. She's 23. But at the time, I was just lost. I was smoking 30 cigarettes a day. Wow. I was drinking excessively, and I was taking a lot of drugs. And a lot of that time, that year that I spent away, a lot of those memories I don't have, because I can't remember what happened, really.
Wow, yeah.
So it was, although it was in one respect, a very exciting time to discover all that new stuff, it was also a really awful time, because I was looking for love in all the wrong places. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've all been down that road, and it's funny. So the bulimia, I want to go back to that in a minute, but it's funny, looking for love in all the wrong places, right? Eating and drinking too much, partying too much, all of that. And then we have the shame after it, right? So it's interesting how the mind works, that while you're doing it, it's wrong, but whatever void it's filling. And then after the fact, you knew it was wrong all along, but then you're allowed to beat yourself up right after the fact. It's just, we're on this crazy roller coaster ride in our mindset. So that's why really I think there's a lot of talk about mindset these days. But the bulimia, how did you grow out of it? I don't know I don't know what that process looks like. Just for anybody listening that maybe has a daughter or they are going through it, is there something that you did specifically to relieve that need to binge and purge, right?
At one point, so for me, it would be that I would eat so much and then I'd make myself sick, or I would take laxatives, which are really awful. I remember once I came home from drama college for a holiday, and my mum found a packet of X-Lax, which is a brand, well, actually, she found it in my pocket, but the dog had got hold of it. And so the dog wasn't very well in the garden. So
Yikes.
It was to see, and she said to me, what is this? What's happening? But she didn't really have the skills to do anything about it. I think passed it off as a one-off thing, that I perhaps, that I was a bit constipated, and that was that. And I think really it was only when I started to discover that I had some power in terms of my mind, that I started developing that I actually realized what I was doing and why I was doing it. And then I could change that behavior. So it's only because when I became conscious of it that I could change anything. And I think that's the thing. We often do these things unconsciously, but it's only to interrupt that pattern and yet, what am I doing?
Yeah. And I think, compared to when we were kids, Julie, now there's just so much more information, which I don't know is a good thing or a bad thing, right? But there's so much more information so people don't feel alone. Because, back then, I bet you probably hid the fact of that eating, right? And then the X-Lax. But you didn't know necessarily, maybe somebody else on the dorm was going through the same thing, but it wasn't okay to talk about it back then because we didn't know what it was, right? It hadn't really been defined when we were kids. It was an eating disorder. What did that mean, right? So, there's so much more information, which I guess is a good thing. But it's funny because, again, eating disorders, drinking disorders, I think we have a lot of mental health issues here in the United States. And I'm not minimizing any of that by any stretch of the imagination. I think we need to discuss it more, shine lights on it more so people realize I'm not alone. And then the byproduct of that is also there are resources that maybe I didn't know to look for. I was afraid to look for. Somebody might look at, if I share a computer with a brother or sister at home, maybe they're going to see what I was searching. So all of that shame that goes into it. So I think by shining the light and talking about things, it gives people an alternative than just being, miserable and thinking I'm a mess, right? That self-judgment.
I think talking about it is absolutely vital. And there's only so much talking about it you can do. If we don't take action, nothing changes. So it's not about, it's the way in which we talk about it. Are we talking about it to just alert people to what's happening? Are we talking about it because we actually want to change that? We're asking for help. What is it? It's not just talking about it, I think. And it's really important to address it, to actually take responsibility and say, this is what's going on for me and I don't know what to do.
Yeah, be honest with yourself, right? Again, everybody, you guys listening, it's clearly easier said than done. But if you, someone that has a problem, or you assume, or you maybe you think there's a problem, how can you help them? And sometimes somebody just needs a hand out, right? Reaching to pull them out of, that hole that they're falling into, right? So we really do want to share that love and respect and kindness, because I think we all need that hand at some point in our life, right? To that lifeline. It almost becomes a lifeline. So what did you want to say something else before I ask my next question? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
The other thing is that we are role modeling all of the time, and we can do it in very subtle ways, but our children, the people around us, will pick up subtle clues, and they will make all sorts of decisions based on our behavior. So actually, for us to think that what we do doesn't have an impact on other people, I think is a little bit short-sighted.
It's true, right? It's the pebble in the pond. I use that expression a lot, but it's there's always a repercussion, right? That pebble in the pond is such a great visual, because everything we do, right? The pebble plops into the water, but then that ripple effect, how far does that ripple effect goes depends on the severity of the situation, habit, whatever it is that or the people that we're surrounded by. How impactful are we being? It's amazing. It really is amazing. I watched a movie last night on Netflix with my husband, and it was about an orphanage for boys originally down in Mexico. And the gentleman grew up on the street. His dad passed away, right, in an accident, and he ended up on the street. Fast forward, I think he became a thug at some point. At least that's what they allude to. But then in the end, he starts this orphanage, him and his wife, for all of these wayward boys. And at the end, they're going to lose the orphanage, right, because they were out of money. The bank was going to take it away. And all of the things that he did, right, to survive, because he didn't want those boys to go back to the street. And again, it's that idea of what a saint, right, that he was, whatever his journey in life was, but that commitment to those kids, he was their lifeline, right, and trying to teach them not to live on the streets and become thugs, to make something of themselves, right? What a huge burden, but what a huge responsibility he took on. So the movie was just amazing, and I don't remember the name of it, but it was about a Mexican orphanage, and it was based on a true story. So there's people out there that are lifelines for people, which is just like, to me at the end, I was like, wow, what a guy. And then they showed photos at the end of him, current day. And you gotta love people like that, because, he could have said, hey, not my responsibility, man, figure it out. I figured it out. But to pay it forward in such a grand gesture, there's people out there that really are wonderful lifelines for all of us. You just have to be willing to open your heart.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think, Connie, that every single one of us can make a difference.
Agree.
Just smiling at someone can change the day. There are so many little things that we can do, and I think sometimes
it's true.
We can imagine that we're a bit powerless, but actually we have enormous power, and we can do it in little ways that have a huge impact on people.
Yeah.
Kindness is what's going to change the world.
I agree. Kindness and love. I agree 100%. You know me, my whole mantra with the sales thing. If you're not selling from a place of love, care, and respect, stop, because you're doing it wrong. Right? And I know I say, everybody's like, yeah, there she goes again. But it's true. Everything we do, right, to serve others, and in my case, a business, your case, a business, we have to come from that place of love, care, and respect. Otherwise, what are we doing, right? What the hell are we doing here? Why did you start this online global health and wellness business? It's just about a decade, right? It's a little over 9 years ago. What made you do that? Like, that's a big commitment, from acting to that.
Divorce, Connie, is the simple answer. So my husband, out of the blue, asked me for a divorce. We've been married for about 15 years.
Ugh.
And working as an actor and also as a life coach and EFT practitioner, which for those of you that don't know is a tapping technique, without a pension and being in my mid-50s, approaching 60, was not great. I needed something, and it had to be flexible. And I never in a million years, Connie, thought that I would have the business that I have. But I have to say, it's become one of the best decisions I've ever made. And I love that I can fit it around absolutely everything, work when I want to work, and create the life that works for me, and build that pension for myself.
Yeah, and you had a post the other day. You were somewhere at some event, and you were all garbed up with I think they were with your actor friends, right? It felt theatrical to me, but I could be way wrong. But it was such a fun photo, and I love seeing my peeps in their element and just joy, emanating from being around the people that are like-minded and everything. So I agree, right? We open a business, a lot of responsibility, a lot of sleepless nights because you don't have that steady paycheck, right? Which is it's one of the things that we accept as business owners. But the freedom of income, the freedom of our time, the freedom to live the life we want, the risk reward for me, 20 years ago, I made that leap and never looked back. So yeah, I totally get it. What have been some of the biggest successes for you working with people in their trajectory of you helping them with the health and wellness? You know what I mean?
For me, when I started my business, I just knew the basics about health, but I didn't know certain things that now knowing those things has made a massive impact. So it's given me the power to really take care of myself inside and out. But also when I can share that with other people, that gives me enormous joy. And, I think that life is meant to be enjoyed. You enjoy your life, I enjoy my life. And I think that it's really, really important to love what we do and also to have an impact on the world. And
agree.
That's the great thing, is that I work with people who do very different things that have a vision. They have a vision of a life that is going to make them happy. They're already people who experience joy, and they're great connectors and they're great communicators, and they really want to pay things forward and to create a life that's not an ordinary life. So ordinary is fine, an ordinary life is fine, but extraordinary is what I'm after.
You and me both, sister. I hear you on that, right? There's a book out there, Good is the Enemy of Great. And I use that quote, weekly, daily almost, because when things are good, things are good. We don't change because it's good, right? I don't have to worry about that. I'm on autopilot, and that becomes the enemy of great, because to become great, you have to become uncomfortable when things are good. And that's that extraordinary leap that I think, for me, that's how I interpret being extraordinary, right? It's things are good. I'm blessed. I'm grateful. Yes. Now I need to get uncomfortable, because being good is good, but I need to be great. And how can I do that? How can I show up bigger? How can I serve bigger? How can I help more people? How can I change more lives, right? That's my soul. I think that is my soul's journey, my soul's purpose, for sure. And I think it's yours as well.
Absolutely. Why? I was going to say that some of the things that I've learned, I think, might be useful to your listeners, actually, in terms of health, because we're talking about health.
100%.
Things that I didn't realize is that health starts in the gut. So the gut is now being considered the second brain. So it's a thinking thing. And if you really nourish the gut, you will not only be much more balanced in terms of your emotions, but your body will function better, but also it will show up on your skin as well. So your skin is likely to grow. So it's really to glow, not grow. So it's really important that you are looking after your gut. That is number one. And also, so it's no longer about what you eat and drink. What you put in, of course, that matters. But what you put on your skin matters, because that's absorbed. And one of the things I think these are things that I didn't know before I started my business, that there are 3 ingredients. There are many ingredients in products, particularly in the States, actually, that are allowed. That
I know, it's absurd. You guys are much stricter in England.
We are, but I think there are 3 ingredients that I would kind of watch out for. So mineral oil is something that's in most products around the world, in stores, online, whatever. And it's a byproduct of the petrochemical industry. So it sounds like it's something really great and earthy and wonderful, but actually it's a waste product. And because it's so expensive to dispose of, they sell it to the skincare industry to bulk up products. So people think they're getting this great big bargain full of, great products, great ingredients, but actually the ingredients make up a very small proportion of that actual product. It's full of these cheap fillers. The other thing is parabens. So parabens are designed to preserve the life of the product. And some of these products have to be on the shop, in the store, for 7 to 9 years. So they've got to be preserved. And now evidence is showing that these parabens are showing up in breast cancer tumors. So these are things to avoid. The other thing is phthalates. So phthalates are in products, and phthalates actually are hormone disruptors. Now, the last thing we need is for our hormones to be disrupted. So those 3 things, the first one, mineral oil, it's fairly harmless. It sits on the skin, but basically it doesn't really allow the skin to do what it's supposed to do. It's the largest organ. It's meant to breathe. It's a deep organ. So it just sits there. It looks great, but actually it's not really allowing the body to work efficiently. So most products on the market include at least these 3 products. So I think that might be useful for for your listeners to know.
It's crazy. And just, you're right, in the United States, we are further behind you guys as far as your government has a list of, for the beauty industry, that they are not allowed to include. And those ingredients are still included in the United States because it's big business, right? So it's, who's going to go to Capitol Hill and fight it? It's an uphill battle. So yeah, I totally understand that. Another question I want to go back to, you talked about the gut health. What are some, so thank you for that. Love that tip, guys. Mineral oil, phthalates, and parabens. Parabens. So just watch out for those 3 ingredients. I'm going to, tonight when I go upstairs, I'm going to check out all of my cosmetic, although I'm pretty selective in all of the products I use, especially on my skin, that I am highly aware of. I try to do organic and natural and things like that. So yeah. But
it's animal testing though, isn't it, as well? And that everything we use, so we're washing, cleaning our teeth, we're doing all this stuff, we're washing and it's all going down the drain, it's going to the river, it's going to the sea.
Exactly.
If we don't keep the sea healthy, we are in big trouble. And I hadn't realized until recently the statistic, actually. Apparently between 70 and 80% of our planet's oxygen is produced by marine plants.
Yes.
Most of which are marine algae. So if the ocean dies, we die too. That's the reality. I think people don't think of the impact of the environment. So, and those that do are becoming more conscious and wanting to be conscious consumers.
Absolutely.
They want to buy from a brand that has integrity. They want to know that it's not tested on animals, that there's a sustainability plan, but also they want results. People want results as well.
Yeah. And it's funny because the natural is going to get better results anyway. The problem is the 5 and dime or the drugstore down the street. You could buy something super, super cheap and no name brand and it's made up of crap, but we think we're, it's a moisturizer, right? It's going to take the fine lines out. But what are we really putting in our body? So guys, be mindful of that. The other thing you mentioned about the ocean, there's a great movie on Netflix called Seaspiracy. Did you see it?
It's shocking, and it's a must watch.
It's a must watch. And, we're all worried about the straws in the ocean. 51% of what's killing the ocean is the fishermen's lines, the plastic from the. You got to watch it, guys. Seaspiracy. It'll change how you look at the earth, at the ocean, and how we're contributing to killing ourselves one step at a time. Truly, truly, it's an eye opener. So I'm glad you mentioned that as well, because the Seaspiracy, great movie. Another question, gut health. What are some recommendations? Because we're almost out of time, but that gut health, I keep hearing it more and more and more. What can my listeners do to start to improve that gut health or raise awareness to their gut health? Or where would you start with that? What are some of your tips?
If people want to send me an email, get in touch with me, great. I make recommendations for products that are great for gut health. But basically you want a prebiotic and a probiotic and digestive enzymes. And you really want to be building that gut, that microbiome in the gut. You want to look after that because that is really, I think, the secret to great health.
I love it. So prebiotic, probiotic. I take a probiotic. I don't know that I take a prebiotic. And what was the other one? An enzyme?
Digestive enzymes. Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to talk. You're going to have to, I'm going to email you. No.
It's funny, but I've learned what I've learned. And, these are facts that I have. So, yeah.
I love it. So gut health, skin health, right? The skin is the biggest organ we have in our body. Just be mindful of what you're putting on it, guys. We ingest as well, but what we're putting on the external, we don't think about it often. Are you clogging pores? Are you causing disease within your body without realizing it? And the PABA, what you were saying, it's showing up in breast tumors and cancer and stuff like that. So again, what we're putting on our body's absorbing it, and it's again generating or creating these because it's not a natural thing to our body, these foreign objects, our body's responding through cancer and other things. It's just, we're killing ourselves. We know we're killing ourselves, but that element of change is really, really hard. So here's the deal, guys. I hope that Julie has just like, what? I hope that your synapses are firing or on fire, where the light bulbs are going off and you're thinking, man, I have to have a conversation with this lady because she's freaking brilliant. So if you email her, again, she can do that little quick consult with you or schedule a time to specially review that gut health. So you guys know I'm doing it for sure. But email Julie at juliemannbiz, B-I-Z, at gmail.com. Julie, J-U-L-I, Mann, M-A-N-N, double N, and then biz is B-I-Z at gmail.com. Also, check out her website, which is juliemann1, the number one, numerical number one, .arbonne.com. So juliemann1 at .arbonne. Arbonne is ARBONNE.com. And also, there's a Be Well, Live Well club that Julie has. I'm going to include that in the show notes. It's a long URL. I will post it so you guys could find her. Also, you are doing a 5-day challenge. Yes, please tell us about that.
5-day challenge is all about saying yes when you want to say no. It's a 5-day challenge, so it's to stop that habit. And it's going to be great fun. It'll be simple things for people to do daily for 5 days. There'll be a Facebook group, so there'll be lots and lots of support, accountability, but also there will be prizes. There'll be prizes every day.
Woohoo!
Brilliant. And it's just really a way of people becoming conscious of when they say yes to something that really they end up resenting, and then they don't have time to do the things that they do want to do. So this is really about becoming conscious, having fun, and doing it with a bunch of other people.
So you guys, you know I'm going to be there because Julie, I stalk her. She stalks me. It's we fell in love with each other and our friendship has grown in literally a couple of months, and we're across the world, right? You're across the pond, as they say in England. So I will be doing that challenge with her as well. So that link will also be in the show notes so that you guys could check in, click in, and be part of the fun with that as well. So again, any questions, short term, juliemann1, juliemanbiz at gmail.com. Find out what you're doing about your gut health. And again, Julie could give you a list of those things that we're putting on our skin that we really shouldn't be, especially here in the U.S. And join the challenge. Hey, let's have some fun together. I love it. And we'll meet, Julie, you and I get to meet more people as well through the Facebook group. So I'm always up for meeting new peeps. So cool. Thank you so much. I can't wait for the challenge. Again, I'll put all that info in the show notes. Julie, thank you so much. I always love hanging out with you. I feel your extent of knowledge is wonderful. Your tips are great and easy to apply. You're so approachable, and I'm just really, really happy that you were on my show, but I'm happy that you're in my life. I truly, you are a joy to me. So thank you so much for being on and share. I'm happy to share you with my peeps.
Oh my goodness, I couldn't agree more. I love you, Connie Whitman, and I love what you do. So thank you for asking me.
Always a pleasure. We'll be in touch. We'll do you'll be sick of me by the end of the 5-day challenge. I'll be like, Julie, guess what I did today?
All the prizes.
Well, I'm competitive, so you know I have to win all the prizes, by the way. So all of my listeners, yeah, you're competing with me. I don't know. It's going to be an uphill battle for you. Just saying. Thanks again, Julie, for being on. Great show. Thanks for all the tips and ideas that you shared. Truly appreciate it. And I hope you will join me weekly as we question, build, and discover together that no matter where you are in your business, career, whatever is going on in your life, I really do hope that my guests and I provide those tips and strategies and little ideas that you can apply, hopefully, right now, right after you listen to the show. Application for me is where the magic happens. We want to change our lives. We want to change the world. Let's do it together. You have to take a step forward. So get a little uncomfortable with me here, but try something new. Thank you all for joining me. Thank you, Julie, for joining me. You've been listening to the Heart-Centered Sales Leader Podcast with me, your Heart-Centered Sales Leader Podcast host and Connie Whitman. I was going to say and guest. No, I'm not the guest, I'm the host. I wish you all an amazing week full of inspiration, full of change, full of love, and full of amazing thing. And truly, I am honored to have you on this journey with me. Stay in touch, everyone, and I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks, Julie. Have a good week, everybody.